like to call the meeting to order. 7 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Chair Hedges,
Here.
Vice Chair Azevedo,
Here.
Commission Members Askey,
Here.
Delap,
Here.
Jafarian.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Could you please stand and will you lead us in?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we'll have the appeal notice read.
In the event that you disagree with the action taken by the Planning Commission in regards to your application, or with any condition for approval of the application which is not a specific requirement of the Norco Municipal Code, you are entitled to appeal such determination or conditions to the Norco City Council, provided that such appeal is filed with the Norco City Clerk within 10 calendar days after the requirements for appeals, inclusive of payment of an appeal fee.
Thank you, Alma. We're going to have the public comments on things that are not on the agenda, but do I have something to read, Lacey?
No, ma'am, we're not doing telephone.
Oh, good. Okay, so will someone be, do we have to leave time for someone to call in? Or?
I will be checking the email for comments
Okay,
during
so this is
public
the
comments
time
now.
for audience to speak on anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have any cards?
I have no comments in the email and I have no cards.
Okay, all right, then I'll close that and we'll come back to the public hearing. And we're going to start with site plan 2A, and that is yours, Joshua, or is it Alma?
Yes, I'll be doing that
Okay.
one. Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This agenda item is agenda item 2A, and it's site plan 2021-06. And this is a request for approval of a 1,526 square foot, a large animal keeping shelter, or what is commonly known as a scheduled barn, at 229 Cavaletti Lane, which is located within the Norco Ridge Ranch specific plan. Just in summary, this large animal keeping structure has been analyzed according to the accessory building ordinance, which is chapter 18.68. The site is located, as I indicated, in the Norco Ridge Ranch specific plan, and it consists of approximately 26,496 square feet in size. It's developed with a two-story home and attached garage, and that's basically it as far as structure, in a small patio at the rear of the house. The front half of the property, which contains the front yard, the home, and the patio, is flat, and then the property drops in elevation approximately 6 feet to where the new barn is going to be proposed and where there is an existing recorded PAC on the property. One of the things that I'd like to point out, I did pass out just a clarification page that shows your site plan that was included in your staff report. And if you look on one side, it shows, just clarifies the just in case, the commission couldn't make out the PACA. It was there. It's just, it probably was a little hard to read. But if you look here, it shows the location of the barn and the PACA, and it provides some dimensions. And on the other side is the how the property was originally graded back when the property was developed. The site plan that was provided for the Planning Commission's review is an approved grading plan that shows that the site was basically regraded to accommodate more flat pad for animal keeping. This is one of those legit animal keeping properties where they've graded the property. If you notice here, it's kind of penciled in the approximate location of the proposed barn on the old grading plan, and you'll see that on the new grading plan that's before you, they actually graded the property down to the level of the existing PACA to be able to accommodate more flat pad, and that's where the proposed barn will be going. Let's see. So we talked about the grading plan, and the The structure is, as I indicated, is a shed row barn, and it's approximately 1,526 square feet. It's got 5 stalls, and in front of the stalls, facing the PACA, you'll have a kind of like an open patio area. It's a function of the barn. The proposed barn is approximately 8 feet to the east and 11 feet to the peak of the roof, and it's designed as a barn, a typical animal keeping barn that's reflective of a shed row barn. In analysis of the project, as far as the land use, this is a barn that's intended for animal keeping, and it's an allowed use in the Norco Ridge Run specific plan for animal keeping, which animal keeping is allowed on that particular lot. The building as proposed does not exceed the height limitations for animal keeping structure. The maximum size is not exceeded with the requirements of the ordinance. The maximum size that would be allowed for the entire structure would be 1,575 square feet. What is before you is 1,526 square feet. So the building does not exceed the maximum size limitation. The maximum lot coverage is not exceeded. And again, the flat pad was actually increased with the approved grading plan that is reflected on your site plan exhibit. Maximum lot coverage is not exceeded. This property has a recorded PACA. Because of the recorded PACA, the graduated setback requirement doesn't apply. However, they have to have a minimum of at least 5 feet of setback from a property line. As far as the design, wall articulation, there's openings that are functional for animal keeping. As far as interior walls are not allowed unless they're part of a stall. In this case, there will be interior walls to separate the stalls in the barn. The exterior design, the structure is made of tongue and groove wood with metal framing, which are materials that cannot shatter, and no roll-up doors are proposed. The animal keeping area, they don't have to provide one because there is a recorded PACA on the property. No electrical is being proposed. As far as grading, the grading, there's an approved grading plan that is reflected again on your exhibit, and that's still being worked on, but it is an approved grading plan. The drainage will emulate the existing drainage pattern. Let's see. As far as the view, as I indicated earlier, where the barn is going to go, that area was dropped approximately 4 to 6 feet. So it's actually going to sit lower than the existing houses. And if you notice on your aerial photo, you'll notice here, it's this one that has the blue dot on it, and you'll notice, kind of give you an indication as far as where the barn is going to sit in relationship to visibility to the adjacent neighbors. Let's see. Property owners surrounding the property were notified as required in the accessory building ordinance, and along with review of the standard requirements, the Planning Commission will have to determine if the design of the building is acceptable as approved by the Architecture Review Board, and determine if the building is going to impact any surrounding properties. And with that, I will conclude, answer any questions. The property owners and applicants are in the audience and are here also to address any questions. And with that, I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Questions of staff? Phil?
You said there's no electrical, but is there no lighting inside the barn? There's no power? There's not a power panel at all inside?
At this time, we don't have a proposal for electrical. When they submit for building permit, they can definitely add it as needed.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Laura? No? Sure.
No, I have no.
Danny, any questions? My only question is, you sent out the notices. We have not received any responses. All right, thank you. Okay, would the applicant like to come up to speak? Open the public hearing.
To be here, we appreciate it. This is a Castlebrook barn, probably as good as any barn builder in the area, so we're anxious to put a place that gives our animals some more shelter from particularly the wind up on the hill. So it's been the year of the wind, so we think this will be good for them. And it's a unique situation where we have a great view at our house, and then we'll also have a horse property that keeps the animals safe. And some of our horses are kind of spirited and lets us give them a little more room to run before we try to saddle them up and take our life in our hands and go ride them. So we're excited about this. Electrical is interesting. Right now we just have some solar panel cameras. Solar cameras out there right now. We don't have any electrical.
Any questions?
Happy to answer any questions you
Any
have.
questions?
Oh, I have one. This is a retaining wall that will.
There.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Well, you're welcome to come up and view the area if you wish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you.
Do we have any cards, any calls?
I have no cards and I have no emails.
Okay, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to us for discussion and/or proposal.
I'm going to make a motion that we go ahead and approve site plan 2021-06.
And I second the motion.
I have a motion from Member Jafarian and a second from Member Delap. Chair Hedges,
Yes.
Vice Chair Azevedo,
Yes.
Commission Members Askey,
Yes.
Delap,
Yes.
Jafarian.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. All right, we will now go to business item 3A. Is this, Joshua, are you doing? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the 2020 Annual General Progress Report. This is going to be submitted to the Governor's Office for Planning and Research and the State Department of Housing and Community Development. The report is there to receive and file for you guys. We just recommend one small correction on page 25 where it states, prepare objective development standards. I'm recommending an amendment to read, commence preparation, if appropriate, development standards. So basically just amend those 4 words for the Housing Development Overlay Zone, HDO, for future development. Sorry, forgive me. It's my own writing. I'm recommending an amendment to read commence preparation of appropriate development standards, not if. Forgive me.
Okay.
I'm tired. I just got back from vacation. My brain's a little, but forgive me. Preparation of appropriate development standards for the Housing Development Overlay Zone, HDO, for future development. Other than that, if there's any questions, it's basically an information document, more information than anything. It's going to go on to council at the next meeting and then go on to the state after that. But I'm here for any questions if anyone has any.
Anyone have any questions?
Well, what does commence preparation of mean?
Means that, start gathering information, looking to see if we have to commence preparation basically means to prepare compiling information to present a potential code amendment. So that includes maybe getting a consultant on board. And it may take us into the next year possibly. So that's why.
Wouldn't that be more precise if we said compiling information or something like that? Just commence preparation of seems a little nebulous to me.
Okay, we can do that. That's easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Government speak,
Do we need to vote on this or just receive and file? Okay. Okay, then we'll go on to item 3B. Is this yours, Alma?
That's mine.
Okay.
Commission, this is an information item for discussion. The purpose of this item is for review of the existing provisions for non-conforming uses and structures in Chapter 1839 of the Norco Municipal Code. And the intent of this discussion is basically to give some explanation of where we are today, how things have maybe been interpreted, and to request direction from the Planning Commission to see if any amendments should be done to maybe further clarify this section of the code that might need some refining. So just in the background analysis, staff has encountered different interpretations of the Norco Municipal Code as to the expansion of nonconforming uses. Specifically, probably the most prevalent ones and the most visible ones are expansion of residential nonconforming uses in the C4 zone, which, is probably the most, I don't want to say maybe potential problematic. I don't know. It's just that they're probably the most prevalent as far as issues surrounding our nonconforming uses. What I did for the Planning Commission is I attached the existing section of the code. Just kind of a brief overview. Per the chapter, a nonconforming use is one which legally or lawfully existed at one time, but which is no longer permitted in the corresponding zone. A nonconforming use cannot be enlarged, altered, or moved to another portion of the lot unless approved by a conditional use permit. And this is verbatim from the section of the code. If a nonconforming use is discontinued for a period of 180 days or more, it loses its legal nonconforming status. A good example of a legal nonconforming use is a legally constructed residential home in the C4 zone. In the C4 zone, as the Commission is aware, a single-family residential zone is not allowed, but for those that have existed legally, they're allowed to continue as nonconforming uses because they don't conform to the existing land uses allowed in that zone. In the past, a CUP, conditional use permit, has been required for the expansion of nonconforming uses. However, the term, so basically at one point we did, and this is a while back, some nonconforming uses have been brought to the Planning Commission. I mean, this goes way back, for people wanting to expand, and it required a conditional use permit. One of the more recent determinations has also included that enlarged, altered, or moved to another portion have been interpreted in the recent past as referring to intensifying a nonconforming use. And when we say intensifying, for example, a residential use in the C4 zone would mean adding another residential structure. So, and not referring to the expansion of the existing residential house. So, for example, expanding the nonconforming use would basically mean adding another residential structure. So therein, the Commission has probably seen the expansion of some homes in the C4 zone because of that interpretation. So, so maybe that's something that, we need to address, and that's why we're here. As far as a non-conforming structure is basically, in a nutshell, is a structure in any zone that doesn't conform to setback requirements. One of the things that we see a lot is residential homes and residential zones that, for example, don't meet the rear yard setback. As the Commission is aware, the setback has transitioned throughout the years from 30 to 60 to the current 100, and therein, we have a lot of homes that may not be able to meet the setback, and therefore variances. The way that's handled is through a variance process for an expansion. The nonconformity could be by reasons of restrictions of area, height, structure, setbacks, distance between structures, parking facilities, or other requirements concerning the structure. A nonconforming structure may remain if it stays in the same use. However, a nonconforming structures may be enlarged, altered, or moved only if the proposed structure or the expansion meets the zone code regulations or, the setbacks. If they can't, they do have the option of applying for a variance waiver, basically, and that usually always requires approval by the Planning Commission, subject to certain findings. Per section, and this is where it gets a little hard. Per section 1839 of the same chapter, any non-conforming structure or portion of a non-conforming structure containing a non-conforming use, ordinary repairs may be done. However, substantial activity or repairs that require a building permit exceeding 10% of the current replacement cost of the structure is not allowed. That, unfortunately, the difficulty with that is that 10% of the replacement cost is almost sometimes difficult to administer, for the reason that there's really no indication of, 10% for the life of the structure, within 5 years, it's hard to interpret and difficult to administer. And as far as the replacement costs, it could vary with the person. Let's say we have a building official now, the next building official could have a different determination. So it gets a little bit difficult to administer. Because of the potential and continuing consistencies in the interpretation of the provision noted in our municipal code, Staff is recommending a discussion, that your discussion this evening on amending the code to include maybe possibly square footages, percentages as a threshold, and specific criteria. So possibly maybe some additions or remodels can be done at staff level, subject to certain criteria. And anything above, say, a percentage automatically comes to the Planning Commission. So, for example, expansion of a non-conforming use, maybe the commission might want to consider the enlargement, extension, modification, or structural alteration of a structure or site occupied by a non-conforming use shall require administrative approval by the director, subject to the following. And it basically, and just in a nutshell, provided it hasn't been discontinued, provided the expansion doesn't exceed more than, we have here 20%, we could say 15, and anything above, say, 20 or 15% automatically requires approval of a conditional use permit. Expansions to structures can continue to be via variance as far as expansion. As far as repairs and alterations on non-conforming structures, to eliminate the 10%, non-conforming structures may be may be repaired provided the footprint is not, enlarged. And that's for residential structures. For non-conforming non-residential structure like commercial structures, again, renovations, etc., can be allowed provided the footprint's not expanded, and the structural part of it is not expanded unless it's for safety reasons. So those are just a few things that I put in the staff report that the commission could consider to maybe clarify this a little better, to make it easier for us to administer, for the public to understand, and the commission is on board on how we are able to administer. So with that, I will conclude, and discussion, direction, we're here for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Alma. Okay, let's just have it as a discussion. Danny, you have some ideas, or do you like what they've presented? Or
Yeah, I just like what's presented. It really covers quite a bit of it. I think it gives the benefit for the
your mic?
person.
Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, everything I've read, I think it still looks good in there. I don't see anything that I'd want to change.
So you're saying what they presented as their ideas you
Ideas,
like?
yeah.
Okay. Janet?
Yeah, I agree with Danny. I mean, I don't really, what they've asked to change, seems like it pretty much is more, there's a better explanation and support behind what it is they want to do. So it's a better guideline, I think.
Mark?
I guess the objective is to sort of clean this up and make it a little bit, because I have some questions in the amortization period section. I mean, some of this stuff seems pretty outdated.
Yeah, and then anything you can give us, staff will come back with a code amendment to incorporate anything that the commission sees appropriate.
Yeah, because some of the dollar values,
Yep.
$2,000 probably would need to be adjusted if it's still important. I don't know about the non-commercial keeping of roosters that was supposed to be brought into compliance by December of 1993. I'm not sure that's still relevant, but I think that section could be cleaned up also.
Okay.
Otherwise, I like the other changes.
Phil?
Just a question, Alma. The only C4 zone we have is just on 6th Street. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
So we're just talking about those ones that were residential that now sit within a commercial overlay of some kind. And so when I consider what we've got on 6th Street, we've already made a lot of migration. So does it really make sense, and this is for discussion for the whole commission, it's not for you, The use of a structure has not been discontinued or vacated for a period of 180 or more consecutive days. We have residences that have been converted into businesses, so they've not been vacated, they've just been,
Changed.
the use has been changed. So I think that's worth, I think that's worth addressing a little more.
Okay.
Because once it changes, I thought, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been wrong on things before, maybe not this one.
No. Not for you.
I had to clear my throat, sorry. We've had structures that have converted from residential to commercial. Very rarely do they convert back to residential. So once they make the one conversion to commercial, this doesn't, I'm not seeing a note here that flops it back. Because I'm just looking at the one expansion of a non-conforming use. I'm looking at that section. Use of the structure has been discontinued or vacated for a period of 180 or more consecutive days. Oftentimes, we've had residences that have been occupied by a commercial group, and then they flip from commercial to commercial. So I think we could be a little more specific in this area, and I'm not totally sure how we would do it, but that's where it kind of that's what jumped out at me.
Okay.
Okay. Let me comment that if I understand what you're asking, that the only issue is the abandonment of the pre-existing non-conforming use.
Could you use your mic,
The-
please? Thank you, sir.
The 180 days is not specifically statutory, but there are a lot of cases which uphold that the evident intent to abandon is measured by the length of time that it's not put to that use. So that if it were a pre-existing non-conforming residential use and it shifted to permitted or permitted with a conditional use permit commercial use, then there's no issue. What can't happen, they've abandoned at that point the residential use, so it's gone. You don't get to go say, well, my business isn't doing too well, now I'm going to go back to being a residence.
Got it.
And in addition, the other thing that we probably need to remind ourselves is that this applies in a whole lot of other circumstances that a commercial use which isn't, or a retail use which isn't permitted in the zone any longer. It's not simply housing. It's really, in my experience, not so much in Norco, but in other cities, that's really the much larger issue, is a business which is operating which doesn't fit the zone anymore. And that's when it theoretically gets amortized, although that's the other thing I've never seen in all my life. I've been doing this a long, long time. I've never seen any use really amortized and said, okay, you got to go. But it happens. The other thing, just as a comment, this is the devil advocate side of this.
You're a good representative of that.
I'm a lawyer, come on.
I say it in a really pleasant way, but go ahead.
Yeah. And that is, the purpose of zoning and making pre-existing non-conforming uses and amortization is to get rid of them. The changes that are suggested here, as a practical matter, would make pre-existing non-conforming uses, if somebody wanted to, virtually permanent. You'd get to go in and rehab and do things to the property and all those things which will allow you to continue to use it as a non-conforming use longer than was contemplated.
So
that's not my call, but that's really the purpose of that.
I have more questions of staff. Is that okay? Or do you want to keep going, John? You can keep going all day long. I don't care. We can talk at the park.
You can ask me questions if you want.
So, as it relates to our accessory units or junior accessory units, non-conforming units, non-conforming uses, which would be residential in a commercial zone, is it mandatory that we are allowed to put junior or accessory units into those uses?
My interpretation is no, because it is a commercial zone. The zone is the key.
Right, because these are structures that are residential, rezoned commercial. Nobody's torn it down and bought it and made it commercial, but if they convert the home to commercial, then there's no issue.
So then I'm going to bring up a very
That's
specific.
correct.
I'm going to bring up a very specific one, and Alma will remember, Pat will remember.
I have two.
There have been residences that were nearly burned to the ground, right? That would be, that they wouldn't have been discontinued or vacated for a period of 180 days, or 180 or more consecutive days. There is no expansion. They're just going to rebuild an existing one. They rarely rebuild the exact existing one. So then I think the only other thing I'd ask for clarification on is this area where the expansion does not result in an increase in residential density. I think we need to put some clarity on that. And I'm really focusing on the expansion of a non-conforming use because that's the most common.
Correct.
Right? Abandonment is pretty rare. Conversion to commercial is relatively common. But if we could just take a look at those and kind of get some clarity on the language, maybe what some other areas, other places that are like us have done, that would help.
Okay, and keep in mind that these were just example for changes, and John's absolutely right. I mean, if we get away from the 10% and let them do repairs as they feel, it's more than likely going to extend the life of the non-conforming use.
Exactly.
Right.
That's true.
And that's something that, again, these are just, again, we're trying to simplify to convey the information to our residents, and it sometimes gets a little difficult, but we can certainly research a little more and maybe bring
Like
some other ideas.
Streamlining it too, so it makes your job easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that some cities do, and I thought that Norco did, but I have a feeling that we don't, is that the example you used of the damaged facility, usually the rule is 50% and you can't rebuild.
Ah, okay.
Well, there is, if you look at, there is provision in there. If it's destroyed by fire, act of God, more than 50%, you can rebuild it. It's specifically, you can rebuild it provided there's a list of regulations, like you have to start within, I think, 6 months, has to be completed within 6 months, within the same footprint. There's a lot of regulations, because, that was amended a few years back to where they said, yes, if it burns down completely, let's go ahead and let them rebuild. So, yeah, that's where that section is. And that's pretty clear. I mean, it took out any guesswork on that.
Would you like it to come back again for more discussion with the other ideas?
What direction do you need, Alma?
Well, basically, whether, the recommendation, not the recommendations, but the ideas that were put in there, I mean, is that something that the commission wants to consider? Again, if that's I'll come back with some verbiage, take a look at the
That one.
And then the dollar amount.
And the dollar amount, and then, we can go from there, because I do think we need to simplify it and clarify it, but again, with this, that it meets the intent of what we want to do.
So the other one that came up, and it came up on the property that's right behind, I think, Rite Aid.
Yeah.
There was, because of the overlay, because they were in a commercial zone, they couldn't refinance their home.
Correct. That's
So
exactly right.
I don't know how we did it. I don't remember how we did it, but they got the right to refinance their home.
The answer is we gave them a rebuild letter.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, because it's something a lender will require, because if it's zoned, the specifics, they won't
So
give them along.
just to clarify, and yes, there was a period where we were doing rebuild letters. We were allowing them to rebuild, and we went to the city council probably maybe 7 years ago or so, where we told the council, was like, well, at the commission too, we keep getting these requests for rebuild. So that's why the code was amended to say if it burns more than 50%, you can rebuild it. So we haven't done a rebuild letter in quite some time because of the verbiage that was amended, as written in your, let's see, it's specific, here it is, 183910. If the destruction exceeds 50%, the non-conforming structure cannot be rebuilt, and a non-conforming use shall not be resumed unless it meets the following criteria. And that was done in 2012, and specifically to help staff avoid doing the rebuild letters and to help people refinance their homes. That was the intent behind that. So that's where, but yes, John is correct. We were doing quite a bit of them, and, people were running into difficulties as far as refinancing. And this was a solution that was approved by Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council.
Okay, well then I guess the direction is for you to take it back and reword
Yeah,
it a little bit, and I like the ideas. I think the
Yeah,
ideas you
you're
came
going the
up
right path.
specific.
Thank you. And hopefully, I know that was one of the issues, Pat, that you wanted as a discussion. I'm hoping did this address the?
It did, because that
Okay.
was a specific,
Okay, good.
well, actually, there were two different ones, and this really does look at it and define it.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then I guess you just need direction. You don't need us to vote on anything.
No, just direction on if the changes, it sounds that, we need to tweak it a little bit to make it more easy to administer. So what we'll do, staff will go back and take what the commission has said, put a draft ordinance together for an amendment, and we'll go from there.
Okay,
Thank you.
Alma. All right, we're at number 4, Planning Commission Staff Communications, oral reports. Any requests for future agenda items from anyone? If not, we're done. The end.